I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey Dave, I'm thinking about doing another revolution. Do you want to join up? I might need some help with organising the pamphlets though.
Pop Culture Pastor.
Cody, take me home. Take me home, Cody. Here, you can't see it, but I'm handing you a piece of my sweatshirt.
You're asking a lot, but thankfully, Superman is loosely based on some of my qualities.
I don't think anybody would argue that you are the superpowered, scruffy-looking dog of pop culture. I'm just kidding.
I am Crypto.
You're definitely Jimmy Olsen. No, I'll let you be Superman. But you don't want to be Superman. You want to be Batman.
I do want to be Batman. Yeah. He wins the battle most of the time.
I'm afraid I'm not Boy Scouty enough to be Superman. I'm kind of a loose cannon. I'm sort of I'm Guy Gardner. I'm wearing the goofy prosthetic, whatever, and the weird bowl haircut.
That was an epic cameo in that scene. I'm like, he does look like Guy from the comics.
Sort of. We'll get to it. We'll get there, because that's what we're going to talk about first. But first, we should tell everyone, this is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. My name is Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And you're listening to a very special episode, because not only are we doing this all in one take.
Oh, this is like the movie Rope.
Yeah, this is basically like it's as if you were listening to us live in the studio. This is all just going to be one big take because it's Christmas Eve as we're recording this. And frankly, sometimes I go back and forth on this, Cody, because sometimes I want to edit. I want things to sound a certain way, but then also I think you lose something in that, like the general conversation feeling of it. And I don't want to lose that either, because I think that's what makes us relatable. Because we are relatable.
Real and authentic this episode. The other ones, synthetic.
No, there's always a chance that, if I edit us too much, we'll be unapproachable because of our perfect English.
That's not us.
That's not us. No, not at all. Especially not Cody. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my goodness.
I hear you.
But yeah, so this is a very special episode. This is what we are looking forward to in 2025. We do this episode every year around this time, and it's fun because we can get into and kind of almost set a plot a course for what the things we're looking forward to in 2025 and that we're probably going to be talking about.
Hoping by some miracle the Murder, She Wrote movie is done.
Murder, She Wrote. We need you, Jessica Fletcher. Jessica Fletcher, take us home. Okay, so we've teased that enough. Let's talk about the biggest thing going on right now in the geeky comic booky pop culture world, and that's the Superman trailer. The Superman trailer finally dropped, and I thought let's get into this right off the bat, Cody. Let's talk about it. But really, I wanted to get what were your reactions to the trailer? Because I have a few of my reactions written down, just like things that jumped out to me as I was watching it. And so, yeah, what was jumped out to you?
Well, right off the bat, I'm like, why is Superman falling? And then I was like, oh, we don't have to wait 2 movies to find out if he bleeds.
But that's a choice, right?
That is a choice.
And I've seen both sides of that on the internet. There are some people that didn't like that, some people that do. I think it's fascinating.
I'm captivated by it.
My theme for this episode is just what fascinates me. That's what I really wanted to stand out and what I'm looking forward to. And I got to tell you, man, that grabs you.
It does.
It's so quiet. He crashes to Earth, and through the first half of the entire trailer, all you hear is him wheezing. I'm like, this dude sounds like me with a cold.
Oh, So I will say my initial reaction was I just had goosebumps, and I was like, "Oh, this is at least captivating enough." Because out of the big three, the Trinity of DC, Superman's not my top.
Yeah.
And at times, if Wonder Woman is done correctly, Superman might be number 3. And so, for a brief moment, I thought that I might become a Superman super fan. But I'm keeping my Batman loyalty. But I am looking forward to this.
Yeah. So, right off the bat, there was the choice at the beginning, which, no matter what you think of it, you recognize that's brilliant. That is just there is definitely, we've talked about this before on the show, about how there's like a craft to making a trailer that's completely separate from the movie. Mm-hmm. I think about the Star Wars movies, the sequels, the Star Wars sequel movies, they all had trailers that almost were like not even close to the tone of the movie. They're
not at all.
They're almost separate. And I think there's a real craft to putting together a trailer that gets people's attention. And so whether you like it or dislike it, whether you have issues with the way Superman looks, his costume, all the things you can quibble about, you got to admit, that's a pretty good way to start the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, I have written down in my notes, the first thing that jumps out to me is I felt like beyond that initial gut punch, it has a Top Gun Maverick vibe to me. You remember like when the trailers came out for that movie, and basically the tone of that movie was, we're going to pay honor to the mythos, but we're going to have fun.
Yes.
And there's like this kind of vibrancy and color. It's very colorful to the trailer, which is about as big a departure as you can get from Zack Snyder.
Yes.
And so that jumped out to me right away. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane does not say a word in the trailer, but just from her look, I'm like, yep.
Nailed it.
That's perfect. I'm encouraged by Jimmy Gunn that he's a comic nerd.
So what did you think of the Superman theme music?
I think that was part of the Top Gun Maverick thing too, because when it starts, it's like it reminded me of like this 80s kind of, but cool 80s, right?
Yes.
And so there was like this kind of cool retro vibe to that electric guitar, but I think it too is perfect. And obviously a lot of the reaction, I watched a lot of reaction videos because I wanted to see other people reacting to it. Other people who love Superman react to it. And almost unanimously, when you're watching these YouTube reaction videos, when that music starts and they realize it's the Superman theme being played by an electric guitar, like just kind of strumming, they all like get moved to tears.
I was going to say, I saw a couple of these big entities react and like sobbing after, because they're like, this is what it's supposed to look like and sound like. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, we need to get you guys some Kleenexes.
Well, and I get it. And I'm as hard on Zack Snyder as a lot of people. But I'm also, here's the part that makes me uneasy about the trailer. Because I still think the first half, or 2/3 even, of Man of Steel are maybe the best Superman film put on screen. The character, he nails a lot of things in that. It just is kind of drab and colorless and grim, which there was something specifically in this trailer that I haven't said yet that I'm building towards.
Uh-oh.
That makes me feel like, no, there's something Zack Snyder was missing that James Gunn gets as a comic nerd. Are you ready for that?
Please say it's crypto.
I'm intentionally avoiding the things I have quibbles with. Crypto would be one of those things.
How dare you?
Listen, I'll admit, that is another part of the trailer that is super effective.
Oh, yeah.
It grabs you. He's super cute. The dog's super cute.
I wanted to adopt it.
It reminds. What was that show where the girls were like, "Sow cat, sow cat"? But yeah, no, it was not Crypto. For me, there's a moment in the trailer where I'm like, whatever quibbles I have, I'm giving James Gunn a chance because of this, because he gets something. And that moment is in the Middle East country, I'm assuming, where there's like war going on.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the kid who has fashioned a Superman flag amidst the chaos. And he puts the flag up and he's almost like praying. And he says, "Please, Superman." And that moment is something missing from, I think, most iterations of the Man of Steel since the Christopher Reeve movies. And that is this idea that hits on the belief of children. That's a big thing. It's a motif in a lot of things, including, and we are pastors, the Bible. Mm-hmm. Jesus talks about believing like children. And it doesn't even matter what it is. Children are more apt to believe in big and bombastic things, whether it be spiritual leaders, whether it be Santa Claus, whether it be Superman. There is a quality that every Superman story should have where, yes, the adults were cynical, we're Lex Luthor. We don't trust you. You're too powerful, that makes us nervous.
Batman.
But the kids believe. Right, Batman. Batman is Lex Luthor at the end of the day, just not driven by that hatred.
Yep.
And so that part of the trailer specifically, I thought, okay, that's what we've been missing. And that alone. There's also the scene where there's an explosion and he jumps in front of the girl. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought, yes, that is Superman, because Superman loves the kids.
And also really doesn't like to see people get hurt.
Right. Amazing, right?
We don't have to destroy half of Metropolis, hopefully.
Yeah. Let's not go there, because we're feeling good about this, right?
Yes.
We don't want to bring ourselves down with the last third of the Zack Snyder's Man of Steel movie.
So according to James Gunn, this trailer with a few small snippet scenes, and I assume those are the scenes with the cameos of other superheroes or comic book IP. Most of this is from close to the very beginning of the movie. Like, you're not getting any of the major plot in this.
Yeah.
Just from that.
Yeah. And that's why my quibbles, which I haven't mentioned a lot of them.
Besides Crypto,
although that dog can win me over. I'm going to tell you, that dog can win me over. He's cute. But that's, my mind is warring with itself, because I'm like, Crypto's not supposed to be cute.
Well, he is.
But this Crypto, sow cat. But yeah, most of these comic book trailers, we're used to them being like, hey, everything in your scene is probably from the first 20 minutes. So everything's set up so I can look past that Guy Gardner looks ridiculous.
I love the way Guy Gardner looks.
He looks so frumpy. Like, look, yes, in the comics he has the bowl haircut, but he looks tough. That dude, I'm not scared of that dude at all.
You're not scared of Nathan Fillion?
He doesn't even look like Nathan Fillion. Like, he's wearing some weird chin prosthetics and possibly some nose prosthetics. He just looks super goofy. Guy Gardner has a goofy haircut.
He looks a little goofy.
He looks like a scary dude other than that. And I'm just like, oh, come on, man. What are we doing here? Although, like I said, I don't want to play too much to the quibbles, because I think there's something specific probably happening in those scenes. All those heroes that you see, they're all wearing a specific costume.
Yes.
Not like their comic book costume. And so there might be like a corporate-y, they're working for a corporation type of thing. It's weird because they're going into a building where Superman has just gotten the can thrown at him.
Yeah.
And it looks like this, it sort of has a Kingdom Come vibe, where I'm like, okay, if this is all just set up and these are just basically cameos setting up the main thrust of the movie, then a lot of my worries, a lot of my concerns that I had about all the other characters, because we've talked about that on former pods, all those concerns go out the window because you're just using them to set up the story, which is how does Superman fit into today's world?
That's a good question.
And I'm here for that. And I can't believe I'm going to say this because I've had so many concerns over the past several months, but in James Gunn, I trust.
I won him over.
No, you did not. There was enough things in the trailer that were super comic booky and loyal and tells me he gets the character.
Well, just know you're invited to the cookout with James Gunn and I.
It's not perfect. Like the kaiju, what are we doing?
It fits.
Does it?
Well, with his Suicide Squad.
Looks like How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, that's fine. Successful movie, Dave.
All right. There were other things we wanted to talk about here right off the top before we get into what we're looking forward to in 2025. But they all have what we're looking forward to kind of vibes. The second thing is this, according to Sports Gamers Online, the recent success of EA Sports College Football 25 has perked the ears of developers, and it looks like we're going to be getting more college games in the future. According to Insider Gaming's Mike Straw, EA Sports and 2K Sports are discussing internally about developing college basketball titles.
It's back.
We're back, baby.
Oh, I used to play, well, a couple different college basketball games, but I think it was the EA Sports one. If you were KU, they would do the Rock Chalk chant in the final minute if you were up big. And also they would have Jay Billis say, warm up the bus. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sending you guys home crying.
I'm gonna make that my text tone on my phone. If I can find it, just Jay Billis saying warm up the bus. That's what I need in my life. I always thought, I know everyone loves Madden. Everyone loves, NBA 2K, whatever. I always thought the college sports games back in the day were superior.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, even knowing they didn't have licensing rights where you had to go in and manually change all the names on your favorite team and it took forever.
Brandon Rush was the only one I ever changed on college basketball.
Well, you didn't care about the other guys?
Nope. I was like, I know who you are, buddy.
Shocking Darrell Arthur slander.
Yes.
But yeah, like, I think these games are great. Now that the college sports have changed with the NIL stuff and they can get paid for their licensing, I think it's a no-brainer. You start making these games again. Because that's why they stopped, because they couldn't use the players. Now they can.
I will say that I think maybe the best year Madden was 2002. It was whatever year Michael Vick was on the cover.
Yeah.
And then, like, they kept messing with the formula and, like, the buttons, and there hasn't been a great Madden since. But now that college football is back in my life, there has been a great college football game.
By the way, I would completely agree with that statement almost across the board. I think the best EA games, and I keep saying EA, that's Electronic Arts. That's who makes the Madden series. And
yes.
Other sports games, along with other games too. But I think the best games were back in the late 90s, early aughts. Those games were amazing.
And then they kept messing with it.
Yeah. The graphics getting better doesn't always translate into a better game, in my opinion. There's one other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of weird too, and really wasn't on my radar, and I just happened to see an article about it. And we've talked a little bit about James Bond.
Jimmy?
Specifically, the casting. And I have been on record several times, like, there seems to be this push to cast Idris Elba or another minority as James Bond, which I am okay with casting, changing, race-switching characters as long as it serves the character. But if it fundamentally changes the character, then I'm like, well, why? Why would you do that? Just make him a different character. And it's not because in the case of James Bond, casting him as a minority character all of a sudden makes him fundamentally a more like, what's the word I'm looking for? They have the Mary Sue character. It makes him too good.
Yes.
The whole point of James Bond is he's sort of a relic. He's old fashioned, but not in a good way. He's clearly sees females a certain way. He's
womanizer.
You know what I'm saying? He's a product of colonialism, like imperialism from old school Britain, and he has that sentimentalities. And I just think it's weird when we talk about casting a minority character as Bond, because then you're fundamentally changing the character of James Bond. Now, does that mean that I think it couldn't be done in a way that's interesting and good? No, of course not. So if you have a good enough writer, just don't do it. There's a surface way to do that I would call tokenism. And then there's a way you can do that actually is a very well thought out story. You know, the character would struggle with the tug of war of the way he grew up with who he was working for. There's a way to do this good, but usually we don't do that. We do the very political surfacey, cruddy way to tell a story. And so that's what I'm worried about. Anyways, that all leads into, apparently, so Amazon bought the rights to James Bond. They bought the company that owned him.
Okay.
Now, the Broccoli family, not the vegetables.
Chopping broccoli.
The guy that originally wrote the James Bond books, his family, who owns the franchise because he's long since passed on, they are not getting along with Amazon. So we've heard all these things. Apparently, Amazon, well, let me just read you. This is from The Independent there in England. I think that's an England-based news media. In 2022, Amazon closed a deal to purchase MGM, the studio which has produced every James Bond film, with all the Spies action thrillers being now available on Prime Video, including the latest installment from 2021, the last one with our friend Daniel Craig.
I still need to watch that one.
Yeah, I think I watched the first one.
I watched the first 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm not the gritty take on a character who's sort of silly. I just don't know that I'm into that.
I thought it was I thought it was way better than like the Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton.
For sure.
And Pierce, like, he had the look. I just think the world that we're in now, I don't know if you can be kind of almost slapstickish.
But that's my point. It's a personal preference, and I understand exactly what you just said. Yes, that makes sense. But that's the character I liked. The James Bond that's kind of goofy, that's kind of silly and slapsticky, and
we need more Austin Powers.
I don't want to see the James Bond that actually lives in the world we live in, because I know what he looks like, and I wouldn't like him. Right? Yep. I don't want to see that James Bond, but I understand some people do. And that's not to speak against the movie I saw with Daniel Craig, the first one, and forgive me, I can't remember the name of it. Was really well done. I'm not dogging the movie. It's just not my Bond. I don't care about that guy. I don't care about the real James Bond in our world who's doing cynical things.
Yep.
For governments I'm not sure that I'm behind. But the Wall Street Journal suggests there's a feud developing between Amazon and Broccoli, who has creative control of Bond with after inheriting the power from her late father, Albert Broccoli. He's the original writer. So now you've got Barbara Broccoli, which this all sounds like VeggieTales to me. I
just have the Dana Carvey skit going through my head of him chopping broccoli.
According to the report, Barbara Broccoli believes she can hold Bond hostage from Amazon for as long as she sees fit. With the quote, this is a quote directly from her, "Don't have temporary people make permanent decisions."
Ooh.
How does that work?
I don't know.
So they own like the IP, but the merchandising rights and the movie rights and everything Amazon has, I don't even understand that. How did they swing that as artists? Because you can't do that these days, right? Like Taylor Swift had to re-record all her music because someone bought the rights to those songs. So someone can buy the rights to like your specific works, but they can't own the intellectual property unless you specifically sell it to. I'm confused by all this.
Yeah, it's above my pay grade, Chief.
So we need like an entertainment lawyer on the show to explain to us IP ownership and why the Broccoli family can retain that but sell the movie rights. It's strange to me.
I don't have any good entertainment lawyers, but Judge Judy might know.
Broccoli has reportedly called Amazon expletive idiots.
That sounds about right.
And has pushed back on their ideas to expand the Bond universe. So Amazon had ideas, including a TV show, a streaming show, which that makes sense. Spin-offs. I think that makes sense when you're talking about, instead of replacing Bond as a character, make new characters.
003.
But I have no proof that that's what they were thinking. Just spin-offs. And even a female 007, to which... oh my gosh, exactly what I'm talking about. Why? Why would you do that? Make it a female 006. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So she can be her own character and be angry and upset with Bond because he sucks to women, you know, like.
So my wife told me that she saw that Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is in everything evidently, that he was in the running for this role, and it was basically all his, but maybe his significant other spouse rubbed some feathers of the higher ups at Amazon MGM the wrong way.
Okay.
Which, I mean, if they watched Craven, I assume that would have just rubbed them the wrong way. But evidently, he's in Nosferatu as well, and that is getting all the critical buzz.
Dude's not hurting for work.
No, somehow
That's for
he's
sure.
getting all of it.
Another sticking point between the two parties over the next Bond actor, specifically, Amazon is reportedly reluctant to cast an unknown actor. They want to go with someone known, which also makes sense from the company, going against Barbara Broccoli's gut instinct, which is a healthy amount of risk approach by casting a non-known actor, but they have to be British, which, yeah, I think I'm Team Broccoli here. Not the food.
This
just
is
so we're
the
understanding
first
each other.
time that I have ever been Team Broccoli, if you get my drift.
Yeah, why do these... I know why a company would be like, no, we want someone known because that generates more people wanting to see it because they have a following. I get that, but imagine a corporation leader who said, I just want to tell good stories, and then trusted if he told good stories that it would do well.
Like, Daniel Craig wasn't a huge commodity when he took over as James.
No, that's exactly the example she uses.
That he had done work, and if you had seen the work, you would have been like, oh, he's a good actor. Mm-hmm. But, like,
yeah.
You probably didn't watch the work that he was in. So, like, yes, I agree that you get someone that is up and coming or is way under the radar, because I know he's not British, but pretend Tom Cruise is British. Like, there's already a hefty expectation, and like, if it doesn't or if it doesn't live up to the hype, or if people are like, well, this isn't as good as his other works, then you have already built in some negative feedback, where an up-and-comer, you're like, oh, this guy might be the real deal. And then you launch a career, and they're forever tied with your franchise. You say Daniel Craig or Sean Connery, my initial thoughts are James Bond.
Just for an additional, or an aside, I bet Tom Cruise imagines he is British sometimes. I just have this vision when you said that of Tom Cruise standing in front of a mirror being like, hello, governor. Nailed it. Yeah, because like, why? So yeah, why would you want? I understand from a story point, like, yeah, why would you want to put someone like Tom Cruise is a great example. I'm sure he could pretend to be British, but he's been in spy movies. He's been in all these other. It's confusing.
No, and more Mission Impossibles. They never end.
Yeah, although I think this one is the last one, the one that's coming this year,
Allegedly,
which is not on my list.
it's
by the
not
way.
on my list.
So let's just get into our lists. You want to start with TV?
Sure.
TV shows. Why don't you go first? Let's talk about your list of TV you're looking forward to in 2025.
Do you want me to ramble them all off or one at a time?
Let's just go one at a time, and we'll discuss if there's anything to discuss.
Severance. It's finally back on January 17th. The countdown is still on, kids.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Severance season 1, you probably should, because season 2 starts soon, and we will be doing a watch along.
Yes, we will. And I'm so excited. What I've learned about myself over the past couple of years is if I don't really fully get what's happening in the show, I'm way more intrigued by it.
It's the Lost effect.
It
You didn't even watch Lost.
Not a single episode.
I could write a pretty good thesis or theme, some sort of paper on that Lost changed the way people our age fundamentally want to watch television. In that, for people that are too young to remember, they were too young when Lost came out, it was really a phenomenon. You had people the episode would air, and you had people the next day talking about it at work, reading quantum physics papers.
It was bananas.
In retrospect, what the writers had planned and in mind did not
live up to that.
We should not have been reading about quantum physics, but there we were. We wanted to believe, Cody.
So I think I would say maybe a primary driving force would be Lost with a dash of M. Night.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what's going on. This suspense is building, and then what a twist.
Right. And so everybody's been trying to hop a ride on that sort of feeling with the TV shows. There's been a ton of those TV shows since Lost came out. But you mentioned Shyamalan. Well, who's Shyamalan's guy that he loves and wants to stylize his stuff after? Well, it's Hitchcock.
It is Hitchcock.
And what I think Severance has going for it is, yes, it's the mystery of it all, which we like, but it also has this vibe to it that's very Hitchcockian.
I was going to say there's some existential horror that's playing around in this show that, when you first watch it, you're like, oh, this is just a guy at work.
And I think it's the only show that's doing it really, really well as far as that goes. Because there's lots of shows that take up the Lost mantle. We do a watch along. We did a watch along on From, but that's a horror series, clearly.
Straight up.
And there are other shows. What was the one with the people on the plane that disappeared and then they returned so much time later? And
oh yeah,
it got a kind of a second life on Netflix. People got into it again, but it's the same. It's that sort of mystery type thing. But I don't think any of those shows are doing the Hitchcock kind of Twilight Zone vibe that Severance just nails.
Mm-hmm.
Severance hits it. So yeah, I'm excited about that one too. I knew you were going to put it on your list. That's why I didn't put it on.
Also, the cast is phenomenal. And you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed John Turturro and Christopher Walken hanging out.
To be fair, everyone needs John Turturro and Christopher Walken just hanging out.
And so, yeah, it is fun. And then I remember, hey, there's Arquettes still in this world.
They're still here. They just don't work as much, I guess. Whatever did happen to Rosanna Arquette? She was the big Arquette in the 80s.
That's a good question.
And then David Arquette, for a little while, was the biggest Arquette, I'd say.
Yeah.
Him and Patricia kind of passed it back and forth.
They did.
I want to know their family dynamics. What's an Arquette Christmas like?
Oh, that's a good question.
Courtney Cox is there, of course.
Yeah. I mean, David got to be in so many Scream movies.
WCW heavyweight champion of the world, David Arquette. Can you please say it right?
He might be the reason WCW died.
It's certainly possible. What else? What else you got?
Okay, so my next one is, so this is another, like, what is going on show, and I didn't discover it until, like, a month ago, but then binged the first 2 seasons, and it's not for the kids, I will say that much. It's called Yellow Jackets.
I've heard of it.
So it's on Showtime, and, like, it has a pretty phenomenal cast as well in it. They add Elijah Wood in the second season, but they have Juliette Lewis in it, Melanie Linsky, and Christina Ricci, and Sophie Thatcher, who, if you watch the movie Heretic, she's in it as one of the door-to-door Mormons that are trying to share their faith.
Well, okay, so explain the just overall setup for this show.
Okay,
like
so
I was 5.
It's a show that does present time and flashbacks. So present time, you got Christina Ricci, you got Melanie Linsky, and you got Juliette Lewis, and a few other actors that are the adult versions. But when they do flashbacks, it's when they're high school kids. They were going to nationals on a soccer team. The plane crashes in the forest, and like the flashbacks, it starts off like at the end of their time being in the forest, which you find out later is like 1.5 years.
Oh.
So they are roughing it, presumably in some Appalachian mountain range forest.
It's in the United States?
Yes.
And they didn't get found?
In the 90s.
Well, it was. Listen, I grew up in the 90s. We weren't
they
roughing it.
they explain why they weren't able to locate the plane.
Oh, they did?
Real
Okay.
quickly.
Is it supernatural or is it like a real technical reason?
It's a technical reason.
Oh, okay.
Done by Christina Ricci's child actress. Yes.
Okay.
But it is bananas because, like, they might go the Donner Party route at times. There also is, like, this supernatural thing in the forest.
Okay.
And then as adults, the supernatural thing followed us out of the forest.
Oh. Okay.
And for some reason is now just affecting us like 20 years later.
Well, that is interesting. That's an interesting premise. Okay. I'm interested in that.
Yes. Again, not for kids. I will say that much.
Now I'm more interested. No.
Then Daredevil Born Again comes out March 4th. I've been waiting for Daredevil since the Netflix series ended.
I've been waiting. Sorry.
Yes.
That's a little foreigner drop in there.
For a while, I thought it was going to go the way of Blade.
Yeah. So this has a weird history to it because the development of this show lines up with the time where Marvel was struggling. And at one point, they just scrap everything. They take off all the showrunners and they just replace them. And then they start over. So much so that what I've heard is the only stuff that survives the old regime is in episode 2. And that's it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say was the intro credits.
No. Which are definitely not AI. Don't want to do that again. Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. I'll have a little bit more to say when I give you my list.
Okay, and then the last thing, and I've been waiting for this for years, and now this cast is probably older than me. Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, the final season, right? They still don't have a date for it, even though they just wrapped.
But
everyone assumes it's going to be 2015. 25.
The weird little trailer thing made it seem like it would be out this year. So
Yeah, we all want to see that, the wrap up of that. I'll start off with that. So I've tried to include what I'm fascinated by with everything I've picked. What I'm fascinated by the Stranger Things season 5 is the fact that the Duffer Brothers, who are the creators of the show, they had this all mapped out from the very early time. It's very unlike a lot of the shows, like Lost.
I was going to say, Lost, they said they only had like the first 2 seasons planned and then didn't really have the ending marked out.
It falls victim to this thing that when it's corporate driven and you want to bleed as much as you can out of it, viewership wise, means your writers just keep writing along with no end in sight. Whereas the Duffer Brothers knew all along where they were going. And I think that shows in the storytelling. So I'm fascinated by they've been given all this control to tell this story the way they want. They've said in interviews they want to bring all this to a satisfying conclusion. So no unnecessary filler. Like, I assume this is just going to be boom, 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 boom. We're going to get quality content, story-driven stuff from this season.
And the episodes are, like, supposed to be movie length long.
Yeah. So this is going to be fun, I think. The biggest behind-the-scenes tidbit I could find that I found fascinating, unlike in previous seasons, the cast had a lot of time to prepare for this. Like, because they started developing this to tail into COVID and then the writer's strike. There's been all of this time. Well, the production team has been working closely with the actors to ensure that they get like this deep emotional arc for each character. Mm-hmm. And from what I hear, there were reports that everybody was crying on the last day of filming for this. One, because they were kids. They grew up together. So I guess what I'm saying is what's fascinating about this is the emotional quality this final season could have of Stranger Things, I think will be really special. Additionally, special effects are getting an upgrade, because Stranger Things just gets bigger and bigger. Netflix gives them more money to play around with. So I'm assuming that what we can expect are even more terrifying monsters, explosive action sequences, the epic showdown we've been waiting for from the beginning. Whatever the big bad is, if it's Vecna or if it's something else even bigger that we don't know yet.
If it's 11 against herself.
That would be interesting. So yeah, I want to echo that. I want to talk about Daredevil Born Again. That was on my list. The thing that fascinates me about this is I've talked a little bit about it already, and when Cody brought it up, is it's got a weird development history, but it seems like they're on the right track. I don't know if they're going to use any of the Born Again series that it's named after from the comics, but it's an iconic storyline in Daredevil's comic history, written by Frank Miller. It explores Matt Murdock's kind of and Daredevil's fall from grace and redemption, and it has all these really spiritual themes. So I don't know how much of that's going to make it in the show. I hope a lot, because it's a perfect narrative for a show that's kind of about second chances. I just hope that makes it in there. I assume some of it will, since they kept the name. Behind the scenes, something interesting behind the scenes is it's long, 18 episodes.
Mylanta.
Yeah, which is, again, I'm encouraged by that because that's a throwback to the old TV seasons where they had like 20 to 25. Gives you more time to really, really flesh out the characters. So I'm very excited about this. And plus, it's a continuation. They didn't do away with the Netflix history.
Well, that's good.
That was part of the new writing team. They were like, we're going to switch directions. People liked that, so let's just continue. And bring it into the MCU, baby.
And bringing in the sidekicks?
Well, yeah, the Foggy and Karen, same actors.
Because originally, under the old team, kick rocks. We don't need you to.
Yeah.
Dead weight.
And people didn't like that. And so I like that Marvel's kind of trying to read the room. That's what's given me hope for Marvel all along through like this kind of weird period where they've struggled a bit, is that they do seem to take into account the criticism, which, like Warner Brothers over the years, like, rah! We don't care about you.
You will get more of it and you'll like it.
You will get all the Black Adam. Shazam 5, baby. Although I like the Shazam movies. Another TV show on my list, Paradise, a show called Paradise on Hulu, starring Sterling K. Brown, who was from This Is Us.
Okay.
Yeah, he's teaming up with creator Dan Fogelman for a series that's centered around the murder of the President of the United States. Played by James Marsden, who I just thought, perfect. I need James Marsden playing the president, even if it's just to kill him off.
Poor James.
Brown plays the head of security, who just so happens to have been the last person to see him alive after being let in on something top secret and potentially world-altering.
UFOs are real.
Cue the intrigue and the espionage and the gripping mystery. I'm a big fan of 24, so I just kind of dig this sort of material if it's done right. But putting the creator of This Is Us in charge of that story is intriguing and fascinating to me. So I'm fascinated by that.
I'll let you watch the first couple episodes before I dive in.
On My Earth for streaming show, TV show, Alien Earth, due out this summer. It's a prequel to all the Alien movies. Like it takes place before the first one. Have you heard about this?
Do I need any alien stuff?
I mean, we thought that about Predator.
I was always more of a Predator fan than Alien.
Okay, well, just hear me out. This is what fascinates me about Alien Earth and what I've heard about it. The approach that the creators are taking to both honor the original films and introduce something new. One of the most interesting details about this show that I'm looking forward to is this series, Alien Earth, is being helmed by Noah Hawley, who is the guy behind Legion, the TV show Legion, and Fargo. Yeah, exactly. Which again, it's just like the Paradise show I just told you about. It's an interesting combo of a guy who's done a different kind of show, but done it very well. And you bring him into something different. And I'm very fascinated to see the blend that comes out of this, because his ability to put like this psychological depth of something real with something surreal, like, cause that's Fargo is very surreal at times, but it's this crushing, it's this show about murder and just the awfulness of real life. It's very tangible and real, but he puts a surreal quality to it. And so I'm very excited to see what that means for a show about Alien in the Alien universe. Additionally, the show is rumored to explore themes of corporate greed, survival, and the human impact on alien worlds. So similar to Alien Covenant is what I heard, but I don't know that I watched that. Did you watch that?
I probably didn't.
This is a new, more grounded focus on the characters' internal struggles. So it's character driven. Again, it's not necessarily about the alien. There's also a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of rumors that AI has a big part in this story.
Allen Iverson's everywhere these days.
Not that AI. Anyways, I'm looking for some fascinating new angles on the franchise's usual exploration of humanity versus the unknown.
I will say, I think Resident Alien comes back this summer, potentially 2025. But I couldn't find anything concrete, so that's why I didn't make the list, kids.
Apple TV, if you don't have Apple TV and you're not watching this stuff on Apple TV, I know there's not a lot of big name stuff. Aside, when Ted Lasso ended, it was like, oh, well, why do I need Apple TV anymore? And they don't come out with as much stuff, but I have found that the stuff that's put out on there, I watched Bad Monkey, which is the Vince Vaughn show.
I still need to watch Shrinking.
Yeah, Shrinking, there's a lot of good buzz around that. It's just not a lot of buzz, because I don't think a lot of people have it, but all the shows seem to be good. That being said, there's a show called Stick coming out on Apple TV sometime in 2025 starring Owen Wilson, who I just need more Owen Wilson.
Wow.
Nice. But it's a comedy about golf. It's like but it sounds more like a dramedy. So Owen Wilson stars as Price Cahill, an ex-pro golfer who, after having his career prematurely cut short, becomes the coach for a troubled but talented 17-year-old. It's like Happy Gilmore But what if we did it in like the style of who's the Rushmore guy?
Wes Anderson.
Like, what if we did it with the mentality of Wes Anderson and made it more dramatic? There's a lot of, I don't really know much about the show. There's a lot of mystery about it other than that, just the premise. But Owen Wilson.
Will Luke Wilson be in it?
No, but I can tell you who will. Timothy Olyphant.
We're in.
I knew it. Cody's love of Timothy Olyphant would win him over to seeing this TV show called Stick on Apple Plus.
I do want to know where Luke Wilson is besides making alcoholic beverage commercials.
Well, what more is there, Cody? Here's what I'm fascinated by this show. Golf as a backdrop to the spiritual deep meaning life stories. While this is being marketed as a comedy, for some reason, every time I think about a show or movie about golf not called Happy Gilmore, it speaks to. I think it's a piece of entertainment that's going to speak some deep meanings of relationships and life, like Bagger Vance. That's just what I think of.
Legends of the Fall.
Golf strikes me as a very deep spiritual thing to make a show with that as the backdrop.
Caddyshack.
Not Caddyshack.
I think there were some deep themes in it.
No bare feet. The last thing, and of course we have to mention this, Last of Us Season 2, which everyone expects may come out near the end of 2025. It's still TBA. There's no definitive thing about that. And you know that we love this show because we did a watch along if you've been listening. If you didn't know we did a watch along, if you've become a listener since we've done that, go back and you're a fan of Last of Us Season 1, go back and listen to our watch alongs on Last of Us. That was the beginning of watch alongs for us. That's the show that started it all. So we loved it. What fascinates me about Last of Us Season 2 is that the show's creators continue to take great care in adapting the original game into the series while making it their own. So if you don't know, something interesting behind the scenes is that the writers and showrunners collaborate closely with the original game's creators, Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, to ensure that the series stays faithful to the essence of the story. So they change things, but when they do, they always confer with the game creators to make sure that the heart of it stays true. And that's because I've heard, Cody, because I'm not a game player, but I've heard that this video game, The Last of Us and Last of Us 2, all the iterations, are some of the best written video games.
Definitely within the zombie genre for sure, but it does have deeper stories to it, and you get attached to characters in the game. So I do think that, according to my friends who did play the original, they really liked how HBO adapted this.
Yeah. So Season 2 will have a time jump, just like Game 1 to Game 2 did. You're going to get new characters, new layers to it. The production team also reportedly pushing the boundaries of practical effects, which I love practical effects. So I'm excited. I can't wait for that.
They should call my friend Christopher Nolan. He does some good practical effects.
That he does. Season 1 of Last of Us may have killed forever my not watching entertainment material based on video game rule. Because Season 1 was fantastic.
Oh, by the way, Fallout, which you did watch, the girl in it, she is in Yellow Jacket Season 1.
Oh, okay.
And a little bit of Season 2.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but she was great in Fallout. Fallout's weird.
It is.
It was a weird TV show, but
it was a weird video game.
It kept my attention, and at the end of it, it's one of those where, like, I'm fascinated by it, but I'm not sure if I like it or dislike it.
My wife wasn't a huge fan, so I have to watch it on my own time.
Yeah. Are there any video games you're looking forward to in 2025?
Yes.
Oh.
Besides college football. Sid Meier's Civilization 7, baby.
Oh, man, Sid just keeps doing it, doesn't he?
He does. Although they keep advertising it on my Facebook and X news feeds.
Oh, so it's coming out soon.
And, like, there is this Ultimate Edition that has like a board game with it and all these extra pieces, and I'm like, I'll just play the regular video game because this is like $250.
Here's my only problem with Civilization, which deeply love those games. I'm a fan.
I've been playing 6 for the past 3 years.
I feel like every time a new one comes out, I gotta get a new computer though. Or it's not gonna run well.
I play it on the Xbox.
Oh, you don't play it on the computer.
I did when I was a youth, but now we're on the console strictly.
Well, my computer folks know what I'm talking about then. Because, yeah, I mean, like, you get deep into your Civilization game, it just gets slower and slower.
This is the largest file since I tried to download a song on LimeWire back in 2003.
I thought you were going to be like, this is the largest file I've downloaded since I tried to download the pirated version of Smallville Season 5 on LimeWire.
No, I would never try to download a whole season. Do you know how many viruses you would get?
I do, actually. I experimented back in the day.
Oh, my Lanta. Oh, and then hoping to hear a word on Elder Scrolls 6. So if you like the video games from the Elder Scrolls like Oblivion, Skyrim, rumor has it we might get something announced in 2025 about this long-awaited, I don't even know how many years it's been, maybe 20 since the last one. It's been forever.
Yeah.
It's probably only been 15, but yes.
I don't have any specific video games I'm looking forward to. I wouldn't call myself a gamer anymore. Although there are games that I like. Civilization, yeah, I'll try that out at some point for sure because I just love that game. There are things that bring me back into the gaming world. But I did find this from Forbes. I'll just quote their article here. According to a recent report from CVL Economics, the gaming industry has already integrated generative AI into its processes more extensively than sectors like television, film, or music. The report's survey of 300 CEOs, executives, and managers also indicates that nearly 90% of video game companies reported adopting generative AI tools for various applications. So, what does this all mean, and why would I be encouraged by this? Well, game developers are now using machine learning algorithms to generate entire storylines based on player decisions in games, meaning potentially every time you play through the same game, it could be different. Mm-hmm. I think this is huge. AI is also being used to create highly personalized gaming experiences that would adapt to difficulty levels.
They did it with college football. I threw way too many interceptions.
I had a couple games where I threw like 8 interceptions and vowed never to play it again. Played it the next day. But adapting difficulty levels means that players who are struggling with certain challenges can still have a satisfying experience. Likewise, the more seasoned player can't just play rookie mode on Madden the whole time. It'll automatically say, hey, you're too good for this.
I want to dominate and set the records.
Another intriguing development of AI's role in video games and what they call procedural generation. It can create expansive, detailed worlds on the fly, reducing the need for human desires to craft beforehand a world.
So what are you doing, Elder Scrolls?
So think about these games that have come out in the last couple of years, these space exploration games where you can just explore this huge pre-made world. But think about a universe in a game world that just keeps being created.
My mind cannot compute that, Dave.
That's sort of awesome and sort of scary. Because people already get lost in video games.
I lost so many friends to World of Warcraft. I don't need to lose more.
Sad day. We remember our fallen friends who just got really into Warcraft.
Who are still in their parents' basements, I presume.
Anyways, I am fascinated by that. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Where do video games go from here with the rise of AI? Do you have any music?
No, I did not bother to look up music. Music will come to me, and I will be surprised and happy with it.
Yeah. So I got one thing. For 14 years, U2, the band, has teased an album called Songs of Ascent. Now, one, that's fascinating to me because it's U2. They're amazing. They're good.
Maybe the best rock band of all time.
Maybe. Yeah, that's certainly a point you could make. Two, the title Songs of Ascent has deep meaning for people of Judeo-Christian background.
Which my dear friend Bono and The Edge both are.
Yeah, these were songs that the Israelites sang when they were making their pilgrimage to the temple. The ascent being because Jerusalem is on higher ground than, and then the temple itself was on a mount, but it was just a hill. But they call all their hills mountains there. So they would sing these songs on their way to this very spiritual experience, and it's just a mysterious thing because U2 has teased this for many years. And what's fascinating about this is it seemed like this album has been close to completion many times in the past. Mm-hmm. There were reports in 2010 that it was in the final stages, but the band's attention shifted to other projects. They're not doing it. Bono has mentioned the album in interviews over the years, and it's never really materialized.
I want to hear what Adam and Larry have to say about this.
And why they didn't get cool nicknames. It's such a part of U2 lore that even after all these years, fans continue to speculate about its potential release. Bono has hinted that it might be released at some point, and in a way that it would reflect the current state of the band. And I just love music that comes from a place of sincerity. And where you're at, genuineness, where you're at. I think musicians do this the best. And I want to know this. I want a spiritual U2 album. That's what I want. And I'm not even saying that as like a Christian and make it Christian specific. I just want something that comes from this deep place in them, because I know when it does, they make amazing music.
That they do.
And it's been rumored. It's on some 2025 lists. It might just be hopeful thinking, but...
I will say this kind of reminds me of Guns N' Roses, Chinese Democracy album that like they were working on it forever and ever. And I thought China would have a democracy before it came out. And then it did come out, and then I never listened to it. So I can't tell you if that one was good or not.
Yeah, there was a legend around it though, by the time it came out. Do you have any books?
I do. I got one.
One book. I have one book too.
This is amazing because I don't look forward to books.
Yeah. What if we had the same book? That'd be cool.
Sunrise on the Reaping.
We do not have the same book.
Suzanne Collins. So this is the Hunger Games. This is Haymitch's Hunger Games story. And the book comes out March 18th of 2025.
So she wrote the book. Then they're going to make the movie based on the book. And you want to read the book because you're a book reader. You don't like the Hunger Game adaptions, right?
I did not like the original Hunger Game series adaptions because I did read the first book, and then I was like, I'm never reading a book again.
It's a good rule to live by.
But then the last Hunger Games that came out, the Ballad of Snakes and Songbirds or whatever the title was, watched the movie and then listened to the audiobook on my drive to Minnesota and back. And I was like, oh, this was quality.
Yeah. I just have one book just because this appeals to me. I like to read like retrospectives that also tell you something about the present, something from the past that tells you something about the present. This book's called Mood Machine, The Rise of Spotify and the Cost of the Perfect Playlist, by an author named Liz Pelly. Spotify and its streaming model has transformed the music industry. We know that. And it kind of rescued the music industry from financial collapse because things were not going in a great direction. Everybody was getting their music for free.
Yep. Is this kind of like what Constantine does to the faith?
Meaning it looks good. Looks like a good thing for the material, but is it?
Yes, because I can tell you there are very few artists now that I listen to their whole new album. I just listen to the big songs.
Yeah. So this book is going to interest you because you're leaning the direction this author has leaned. She's a music journalist by trade, and what she did was she investigated the Swedish firm. Spotify's Swedish, if you didn't know.
What? We don't do anything with the Swedes.
We don't. But
now we're canceling this membership.
She interviewed more than 100 employees to get the inside story of the past, of its success, its rise, but what effect that success has had on music and how we listen. Exactly what you were talking about. I'm super fascinated by that.
Okay, you have tickled my interest.
All right. Everybody's been waiting for this. It's time for the movies we're looking forward to in 2025. Cody, what movies are you looking forward to?
So the first one, I don't know when it comes out, but it is called The Monkey.
Oh.
Based on a Stephen King book or short story. I don't know which.
It's a remake. Monkey Shines. That came out in the 80s.
And the person that is making it is Osgood Perkins, the guy who did Long Legs.
Yeah.
And so this year I have been all about the horror films, and Long Legs was in the upper echelon. I'm intrigued just because I know Stephen King makes good stories typically, and this sounds like it has potential.
Oh, it's bananas. Have you not read this story?
No, I haven't.
Or saw the old 80s movie?
I didn't know that there was an 80s movie called.
So, yeah, it was Monkey Shines. And it's this monkey. It's one of those toy monkeys that has the cymbals.
Yes.
And just bangs them together. Like you wind it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This story is actually bananas, the premise of it. Because the premise is these two guys find one in their father's attic, this monkey, and then grisly murders start happening.
Oh.
And this wind up monkey toy that bangs cymbals is like supernatural. It's just bonkers, but it's very Stephen King. And yeah, having a guy who did like this very intriguing and interesting horror movie. I haven't seen it, but it's by all accounts something different, something kind of just its own thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's go that direction. You can take these really bonkers ideas that they've had in the past and make them something interesting. I don't know. The only other director, like I think that's a good fit. I've often thought, man, give that to Jordan Peele.
Yes, that would be good.
Give these really bonkers properties to him and let him see what he can do with it. But I'm excited for that too.
So a movie that I think I said on last year's show because it was supposed to come out in 2024 and it got pushed back to April 18th, I believe. Yeah, April 18th of this year. Mickey 17. Mm-hmm. Robert Pattinson, and it's directed by Bong Joon-ho, who is the director of Parasite. And so this one, it follows a disposable employee who is sent on a human expedition to colonize the ice world of something that I can't pronounce. After one iteration dies, a new body is regenerated with most of its memories intact.
Yeah.
And I have seen a trailer. He runs into another him.
Yeah. They have like distinctly different personalities sometimes though.
And so I am intrigued by this. It also reminds me of there was this movie by Duncan Jones called Moon. And basically they were doing that same idea of regenerating someone or having a new version of that person while they were like getting this energy source from the moon. And this guy, he would get to watch videos of his family back home, and he would record videos. And what he learned was, like, that was 20 years ago. that his family had moved on, presumed he was dead.
Oh, man.
And that he was just watching old videos, and he was brought back with like just this memory of, I got sent to space to do this and I'd be home in like 6 months. Nope. He dies every time.
Super sad.
It is.
I
It's
don't
a
wanna
good
see that
movie.
It reminds me of Multiplicity.
And if you've seen, or if you know who Duncan Jones is, it's David Bowie's son.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe you've talked me into seeing that one. I don't know.
Next one on my list, Jurassic World Rebirth.
Oh, come on. You cannot be serious.
I am a sucker for all the Jurassic.
Cody is very unserious right now. Are you? What possible reason do we have to keep watching these movies?
Because I assume we're back at the park.
I don't want to go back.
Because when we're back at the park, it is a quality experience for us all. And Scarlett Johansson's in it.
I love Scarlett Johansson, but that doesn't make me want to watch the same movie for the third time.
I am good watching it again.
Well, at least
Jurassic
we're honest.
Park might have been my favorite movie as a kid, honestly. Then 2 movies coming out in November. First one, The Running Man.
That's on my list.
It's a remake, and also, is it a Stephen King?
Yep.
Stevie King, making my list twice.
Stevie King stories that came out and had original material done in the 80s for the win.
Yes.
Let's get back on that train.
And then, we can redo Silver Bullet.
Yeah?
I don't know who we get to play the crazy uncle unless we bring back Gary Busey.
Let's not.
And then, besides The Running Man, Wicked for Good, November 21st.
Yep. So I'll start my list there because November, again, our November was pretty good this year for movies. I think next year's November is going to be fantastic because half of my movies come from November. So you said The Running Man. You didn't mention the best part. Glenn Powell. Glenn, we are officially the leading members of the Glenn Powell fan club, I think.
You and Jackson definitely are. I'm still battling inside who my favorite Glenn is. Is it Powell or is it Howerton? I don't know.
I am fascinated about this Running Man remake, in particular, the involvement of the Hunger Games director, Francis Lawrence. He's the one doing this movie. Lawrence, known for his ability to craft this kind of tense, thrilling atmosphere while also diving deep into social and political themes, which Running Man has a lot of. And I can't wait to see how they apply that to the story with today's sensibility, because there's all the buzz that social media, the original Running Man is big on media manipulation. Like if you remember the original movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's framed essentially by the media. It's like they generate clips so AI could be a part of this. Just how living in an environment where the powers that be could totally just frame you with technology and put you in a position. I think the narratives for this movie is perfect for this time. This remake's been rumored for years, but this time in particular seems like they could craft something that would really, really work with the dystopian idea of the Running Man, along with the technology we currently have. You feel like you have something to say about that?
Do you think they're going to have a swimming pool scene where Glenn does the Running Man off the diving board?
That would be amazing. Ladies would approve. Another fun fact, the movie is expected to incorporate cutting-edge technology, CGI, to bring the deadly game arenas to life. My only sadness is that Richard Dawson has long since passed away, and you cannot have the former Family Feud host / the host of The Running Man in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie as the host of this movie, because he was perfect.
Drew Carey.
Also coming out in November, Wicked for Good, which Cody mentioned. What can we say that we haven't already said about the movie, the first half? The world building was much better than I expected it to be.
I did buy my wife the Wicked trilogy of books.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know there was a trilogy.
Yeah, there's at least 3.
Oh,
maybe
wow.
there's 4. I don't know.
I only read the first
bought
one.
her the box set for Christmas, so...
Is she supposed to know that? I guess since this won't come out until the 27th.
It's good.
It's safe. The music, of course, is great, and we've got still a lot of great songs to look forward to in the second part. Wonderful. No Good Deed. Mm-hmm. And then the end. You want the end of this story. And what I'm fascinated with here is that director John Chu has hinted that there's some major twists that differentiate this adaptation from what audiences expect from the stage show, which I kind of keeps it fresh and surprising. But I'm fascinating to see if it serves the deeper character moments, because in the first movie that's already come out, it was much deeper character-wise than I expected it to be.
Oh, yeah.
And if it does, this could end up being the definitive ultimate version of this story across all the mediums.
Goodbye, Wizard of Oz.
Books, Broadway shows, movies. The movies could be it. Another movie that comes out, I mentioned, I'm starting in November because that seems to be a big month. Predator Badlands.
If it's done by the same people that did the last one.
It is Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey for Hulu, which, how does that not get released in a theater? It's the best Predator movie since maybe the first one.
Well, Scotty did inform us that there was something with the rights of it, and that if they released it in theater, the money would go to someone else. So they had to release it on Hulu.
Okay.
But now they can release it back in theater.
So this one comes out in November, probably a theater release. Not much known about the plot except for 2 things. One, the Predator is the hero of this story.
Always has been in my book.
And it takes place in the future, which I found very interesting. It's being produced with a focus, again, on physical stunt work, practical effects. So that's kind of my running theme. I'm into that. Much like Prey, rather than relying heavily on CGI, it gives me high hopes for a grounded and visceral experience. Okay, non-November movies. This will round out my things. And it's time for, well, let's do 28 Years Later first. Comes out in June. Did you see the 28 Days Later movie? Did you see those zombie movies?
Yes.
Did you like them?
It was okay. I'm not the hugest zombie guy, so like it has to be good for me to be like, oh, that was good.
I love the zombie genre. I absolutely love it. And while The Walking Dead really redefined zombie genre from a serial standpoint, like Walking Dead was made for comic books.
Yes.
That's what it was made for, and you can really see that in like this ongoing story. It kind of loses steam though in a TV setting for me. Like I stopped watching at some point because I just became less interested, because it's made to keep you going. But in a zombie story where people are dying off, you inevitably will reach a point where you don't care as much about the new characters as you did the old characters.
I was all about Negan though.
Yeah. I mean, certainly there were new characters that you were interested in. I'm just saying over time, you're going to lose people. That's the only problem with that. So the best zombie stories are these ones that are kind of one shot, maybe 2 shot, 28 days later, then 28
years.
Was it 28 weeks, 28 days?
Yeah.
Now it's 28 years later. And what fascinates me about this is Danny Boyle, the director of the originals, has confirmed his involvement with the project, and he has this interesting vision for this post-apocalyptic world. I think 28 Days Later is one of the best in the genre, and so his return to all this has me fascinated. But one of the most interesting facts about this is, unlike many typical franchise revivals, this story is reportedly going to explore the aftermath of the virus on a much larger global scale. So the first couple movies are very Britain oriented and very small oriented. Like it's about most zombie movies are not about how it affects the world, but these 1 to 5 people who are the core of the story. Mm-hmm. And it's very small. what I always end up leaving with by the end of those stories is I want to know how this is affecting the rest of the world. That is reportedly where this movie's going to go. And I want that, especially from this story, which is very gloomy and gritty. Walking Dead always had like a heroes and villains quality about it. Very comic booky. And so I'm looking forward to that story from this guy. I just think it's going to be really good. The other movies all fall into the same genre. That would be Marvel.
Oh. Which, by the way, the new Superman movie is definitely on my must watch, but we talked about so much I wasn't going to throw it back out there.
I figured Superman would be one we're both looking forward to, so there was no point. We could just talk about it on the top.
Yep.
Thunderbolts in the comics is a team of former villains who maybe want to be heroes. Maybe they don't want to be heroes. Maybe they just like posing as heroes. The lineups changed a lot. The stories changed a lot. So I'm fascinated about where they're going to go with this movie that marks a kind of a huge shift in the MCU's approach to storytelling. Thunderbolts is essentially Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad, but with a distinct twist. Okay. Most of the characters in the Thunderbolts have had some sort of redemption arc already, or a personal motivation to be better. Where the Suicide Squad, doesn't start with that.
It's about getting freedom.
Yeah, right? So you have these people who maybe have been villains, but their redemption is already kind of started. So that makes this a little bit different than Suicide Squad. A little bit, I don't know that it's more or less interesting. It's just different. What I'm finding interesting about the production of this movie, fascinating, is it's being produced by the same team responsible for Black Widow, Captain America Winter Soldier, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it's got this mix, but I really think that this could be surprisingly good.
It has a good cast.
Yeah, it does. And the continuity of these characters, the thematic exploration of redemption, if they continue that, it's likely to be front and center here. I just have high hopes for what I'm hoping is a more introspective, character-driven story, despite the bombast of the action in the comic books and things like that. Just make a good story about these characters, please.
You're asking a lot.
Yeah, I am. One that I'm a lot more confident about is Fantastic Four First Steps. Comes out on my birthday.
Hey.
Right, so that'll be fun. I don't need to explain it too much to you. Fantastic Four has been tried and done, and poorly, I might add. It's a weird property to put on film. I think that's fair to say now. We've seen it enough times. It's hard. It's difficult. Why would I possibly be feeling good about this? Because I think
Pedro's
not one of them. I love Pedro, but we've talked about this. I just don't see him as Reed Richards, but we're going to go with it. Here's what I love about Fantastic Four. They're the original Marvel. And the actual story of them is interesting. You should be able to make this movie. And other than Pedro, the stuff I've seen, they look good in their parts. Pedro just looks like Pedro. He's cosplaying as Reed Richards.
Pedro is Pedro.
He is. And that's great. I love Pedro, as I said. But here we have, for the first time, the MCU, after this kind of long and tumultuous history with the stuff they didn't own, this is the beginning of them bringing the rest of the Marvel Universe in. We got the little taste with Spider-Man, but here's the first family, the originals. The movie's director, Matt Shakman, was originally tapped to direct the WandaVision series and was big in the development of that. So I'm hoping, the whole point of WandaVision was it blended nostalgia and this very character-driven storytelling, the sort of mind-bending visual part of that. I'm really hoping that Shakman brings that to the Fantastic Four, because as trippy as WandaVision was, it was still a story about the characters.
It was. For me, it did not make my list, even though I am all about the Pedro. It didn't make my list because I'm not certain that this is a franchise or a property that can do well live action.
Yeah. That's
So
it's
if
fair.
if it doesn't work out this time, you've had all these big names do it and it didn't work, then don't shove it down my throat anymore, people.
If Fantastic Four fails, is that it? Does the MCU have to reboot?
Probably not, but they do have to quit trying to make the Fantastic Four a thing.
Is it too big to fail? Like, do you think of it? I've seen the gamut of predictions. I've seen that it's going to fail. I've seen that it's going to be huge, and Superman's going to be the one that falls by the wayside. Like, which do you think makes more money? Fantastic Four global box office. Which movie's bigger, Fantastic Four First Steps or Superman?
I lean Fantastic Four, just because there still is more trust with Marvel, and you have the Snyderverse, which, holy cow, came out of the woodworks when the Superman trailer dropped and was bashing everything left and right.
Yeah, the amount of hate out there in the DC fandom is just crazy.
But then, like, there's some level-headed people that are like, what Zack did was unique and it had so much potential. Warner Brothers messed it up, but now this looks like a new hope. Yeah. And so enjoy it. Yeah. But I think both will have box office success. If Fantastic Four is done well and they utilize the Pedro to his fullest abilities, $1 billion movie.
Yeah.
Superman should be, just because of all the Superman honks out there. But yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to both of them. I really want this to be, if we're wrapping up, I really want this year to be a year where I'm hoping for the best for my pop culture and entertainment. I don't want to bash on things. I want to love things. I want to love the stories you're telling. I want the stories to be good. I don't want DC to fail. I want it to be good.
Give me more Batman, please.
That being said, there are 2 projects I have listed here.
Before we get to your 2 projects, because I know what route you're going with them, I got 2 things from the world of wrestling that I'm looking forward to.
Oh, surprise bonus category. What are you looking forward to from wrestling?
Okay, so Netflix is now going to host Raw.
That's wild.
Starting in January.
Are they going to be live?
Yep.
Look at Netflix.
And then AEW, the other big wrestling company, they're moving their PLEs to HBO Max.
Wild.
And so I am hopeful that 2 big wrestling companies can coexist and thrive, because it seems like there is more of an intrigue into wrestling now, even by people that I would not have thought would be big into wrestling, like Vanessa Hudgens from High School Musical. She's a huge wrestling fan.
The biggest. Yeah. You didn't know that?
She is all about Roman Reigns. And I'm like, maybe we can conclude this bloodline feud in 2025. I think Cody Rhodes is going to turn heel in 2025. And
makes sense.
I am hoping Swerve or Will Ospreay win back the AEW title. So,
all right.
That
Good
was
stuff.
That was my wrestling bits.
Yeah. I want to end the show with a couple things that I'm not looking forward to, just because we did it last year, so I figure it's continuity.
Yes.
But I'm going to make a statement after I get through my thing with both of them, because, again, I want to end on a positive. What I'm not looking forward to is Captain America: Brave New World. It comes out in February.
New World Order.
Rewrite after rewrite after rewrite. This is like kind of the tail end of Marvel's very, very bad couple of years, development-wise. And they just want, this is like, all I can think of with this movie is the Mean Girls quote, "Why do you keep trying to make fetch happen?" At some point, this movie should have just been Batgirled, like just thrown away. But now they spent so much money on it, and like reports have it like over 500 million, which is
Oh my Lanta.
bonkers. So now they're like stuck. Like now, we got to put this out. We got to make a little bit of that money back, because they're, in my way of thinking, I feel like there's no way this movie makes its money back.
If it does, Marvel is back.
Maybe Feige works his magic and turns this into something. But man, they've had viewings of this and no good ever comes out of it.
The trailer did not intrigue me at all.
No.
The only thing that really has me intrigued, not the Red Hulk, not Sam. It is Seth Rollins, the wrestler, is supposedly in this, and that's why I'm like, I want to see how Seth does.
I just don't know, man. I do not know about this movie. I have a feeling it's just going to be awful. And you've got to worry about brand destruction at some point. Look at what Star Wars is going through. Star Wars Skeleton Crew is actually, it's made for younger people. It's actually kind of enjoyable, and nobody cares.
Yeah, they lost me.
Because there's been brand damage. You've got brand damage, and I don't want that to happen to Marvel when there's such good things on the horizon. And so I'm worried about that. The other thing I'm worried for and not looking forward to is Snow White and the Seven Dwarves with Rachel Zegler. Everything around this movie has been political talk. I'm just so tired, Cody. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of, with everything. I don't want to just pound on, I just don't want to bury Rachel Zegler, because
she did great in the Hunger Games movie.
What's his name had thoughts about this too.
Peter Dinklage.
And about the typecasting of little people. But then they're going to put out this movie with CGI dwarves. And I'm just like, aren't there little people actors who would have appreciated breaking into Hollywood and getting those parts? Like,
getting a paycheck.
I just don't understand what we're doing with all this political talk when really you're just supposed to be telling me stories. And the great thing about stories is if you want to say something political, but you wrap it in a story, you can do that. And it's good. That's what was some of the greatest storytellers of all time were people who were wrapping a message in the story. Jesus was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell me a good story, and I'm just afraid. I'm just afraid that Disney can't get out of their own way, and that they're just going to wrap something. They're going to wrap a story in something political, which is the opposite way, and it just doesn't work for me.
I mean, I'm just tired of Disney doing live action remakes of all the classics.
Then there's that.
Like, you got enough cash. Quit doing more cash grabs.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I wanted to end on that because I want to end on this. That being said, I hope both of those movies do great. I hope both of those movies surprise me. I want them to be good because I want our entertainment to be good. I want us to tell good stories because I don't like coming on here and talking about bashing things. I want to come on here and say, man, that was really good. And it made me think of this. And it reminded me of this theme of life. That's what we're all about.
Yes.
We're all about doing this, talking positively, and talking to you all, the listeners. And it would be a regrettable mistake if we did our year wrap up while looking forward to next year and we didn't say how much we appreciate everyone that listens to this podcast. We started this because we wanted to build a community, and that's still our goal.
It is.
And with that being said, you should know we're going to try and get out to even more comic conventions this year, because that's what we care about. I don't care if I lose money every year on this, which was what we do. We put money in this. We give away free things at the comic conventions. I don't care, because what's important is that we have something that we can look at and say, we have this in common. This brings us together, because the world is doing the opposite.
It is.
And so it's just very, very important to us that you understand that we're doing this because we want community. It's not a job where we hope to make it a career and make money. We don't want to be Joe Rogan. Nothing against Joe Rogan.
Yes. Nothing against Joseph.
But that's not the goal. The goal is y'all. We love doing this for y'all. So we hope you enjoy this supersized episode. What we're looking forward to in 2025. And the final thing we're looking forward to is meeting you guys. Continuing to grow the community.
We will see you somewhere.
We'll see you at a Comic-Con near you. That was redundant.
It is.
I wanted to say something very impactful and pretty there, and it just didn't come out right.
That's life sometimes.
God, I'm hitting myself like Chris Farley. So stupid. All right. We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We're hoping for a big 2025 and a lot of times of getting to meet you. We'll see you soon.
Pop culture pastor. Pop culture pastor.